In 1845, three identical sisters were born into slavery on a Mississippi plantation. From the very beginning, they stood out. They did not cry or break under punishment. Instead, they sang, their voices echoing through the nights and unsettling everyone around them. Then, without warning, they vanished. The cellar where they had been kept was empty, journals were left unfinished, and the last words recorded said, "They walked out together, humming as the flames followed." Whispers of their story still remain. Known as the Plantation Triplets, they could not be controlled. The girls entered the world during a stormy night. Their mother, herself enslaved, gave birth in a small wooden cabin with no comfort or help. She brought forth 3 daughters instead of 1. Their identical faces shone with survival, but instead of joy, their birth was seen with suspicion. Before their mother could even hold them close, they were taken away. The master believed these children were different. Rather than sending them to the fields, he locked them in the damp cellar of Hollow Creek Plantation. Physicians came to observe them, treating them like experiments instead of human beings. But no walls could contain their voices. At night, their humming floated through the house. It disturbed the masters and overseers, yet gave comfort to the enslaved. Some believed it was a song of hope, others thought it was a warning. The sisters grew in the cellar on straw beds and meager food, isolated from the outside world. Still, they were never silent. Servants spoke of hearing their voices even when no one was near. The sound seemed to carry everywhere, unsettling all who listened. Punishments followed. They were starved, beaten, even separated into chains. But nothing silenced them. They never cried out in pain, they only held each other's hands and hummed louder. Overseers reported that the sound shook the air and dimmed the lanterns. Storms came in 1846, violent and sudden. Each thunderclap seemed to answer their humming, shaking the plantation to its foundations. Guards swore they saw 3 figures at a window that did not exist. Fear spread quickly, and the triplets were no longer seen as just children, they were seen as omens. Their mother carried the heaviest grief. Though forbidden from seeing them, she found ways to press her hand against the cellar door, to leave scraps of food, or to whisper their names: Sarah, Selah, Serenity. She felt their humming answer her, reminding her they were still alive, still hers. By 1847, the humming had grown stronger, more forceful. It became a torment to the masters but a source of strength for the enslaved. Families began treating it like a prayer, woven into their work songs and nightly dreams. The sisters' song was not just noise, it was defiance, a refusal to surrender. Physicians who once came with confidence now fled in fear, leaving behind torn journals filled with unfinished words. Their measurements and studies gave way to panic, describing the sound as unnatural and inescapable. When the record stopped, the sisters' story slipped further into legend. But the humming never stopped. Among those who worked at Hollow Creek, none was more feared than Harlan Price, the overseer known for his cruelty. When others refused to enter the cellar, he volunteered. With whip in hand and lantern in his grip, he swore he would silence the sisters forever. When Harlan Price entered the cellar, the humming fell silent, as if the sisters had been waiting just for him. The quiet was heavy, almost suffocating. Then the sound returned, sharper, louder, rising like a blade through the air. Witnesses said Harlan stumbled, his lantern shaking as the light danced against the stone walls. He shouted, swung his whip, and demanded silence. But the more he raged, the stronger the humming became, until his voice cracked and his strikes slowed. At last he dropped the whip. When he came back up the stairs, his face was pale, his eyes wide, and his hands shaking. He sat outside on the dirt, rocking back and forth, whispering broken words about glowing eyes and voices inside his head. Within days, Harlan was gone. Some said he ran into the woods and never returned. Others swore the sisters pulled him into the shadows below. No grave was dug and no body was found. After that, no overseer dared go near the cellar, even during daylight. Whips cracked less often in the fields. Fear spread, and without a single hand raised, the sisters had broken the cruelest man at Hollow Creek. The plantation changed after his disappearance. The master rarely spoke of it, hoping silence would erase the shame. Overseers who once barked orders and laughed cruelly grew quiet. The triplets' humming seemed to fill every corner, dulling even the harshest hands. Records from that year show something strange. Pages once full of rations, punishments, and yields turned sparse, the handwriting weak and uneven, as though even the ledgers could not escape the weight of what lingered in the air. For those in the quarters, the sound shifted too. It was no longer a gentle song but a deep, steady drone that seemed to pulse through the ground itself. Children tossed in restless dreams, women spoke of being watched, and men lay awake, caught between dread and longing. Even in the master's house, strange things were reported, doors opening on their own, candles sputtering without wind, and one servant claiming she saw 3 small figures reflected in a mirror though no one was there. Fear settled like a shadow over Hollow Creek. By the summer of 1848, the uneasy balance shattered. Whispers spread that the sisters' humming had grown stronger, reaching beyond the cellar into the night air. One evening, families gathered at the edge of the fields without a word spoken, drawn as if by an unseen call. Men, women, and children stood together, listening. From beneath the master's house, the sound rose again, no longer soft but powerful, layered, almost like a chorus greater than 3 voices. Some cried, others held hands, and many swore they heard hidden words in the harmony, names, places, rivers, and roads beyond the plantation. For the enslaved, it was not freedom yet, but the promise of it. The next morning, servants brought food to the cellar as usual but felt something was wrong. The air was heavy, almost still. Inside, bowls sat untouched, chains swung empty, and the sisters were gone. Panic erupted. The master stormed down himself, searched every corner, and shouted in fury, but no one answered. No door was broken, no tunnel dug, no sign of escape. The girls had simply vanished. Some said they fled into the woods, though no tracks were found. Others claimed they had seen light glowing in the cellar during the storm the night before. Soon after, fire consumed Hollow Creek. Flames rose so quickly that servants and overseers could do little. Witnesses swore they heard the sisters humming inside the blaze, voices woven with the crackle of burning timber. By dawn, half the house was gone, and yet no trace of the triplets was found. The master insisted it was an accident, but the quarters whispered it was the fire that followed the sisters, a force no whip or chain could hold back. In time, their names were erased from records. The master's books listed their mother as having given birth to 1 stillborn child. The physicians' journals vanished, some said burned, others believed taken by the sisters themselves. Officially, the triplets never existed. But in the quarters, they lived on in whispers. Mothers rocked their babies with quiet hums. Fathers carved 3 marks into wood. Children sang 3 notes at play without knowing why. The story spread beyond Hollow Creek. Those sold away carried it with them, the humming folding into work songs and spirituals. Storms brought it back strongest, when thunder split the sky and old men swore they still heard the sisters. For the enslaved, the words, "They do not die," became both a warning and a hope. Generations later, even after slavery ended and Hollow Creek fell to ruin, travelers avoided the land. Some swore they felt vibrations under their feet near the old cellar, like a song buried in the earth. Among descendants, the sisters were remembered not as ghosts but as proof that some voices could never be silenced. The masters tried to bury them twice, once in chains and once in silence. But memory cannot be erased by ink. The sisters' story endured in whispers, in lullabies, in storms, in silence that still hummed. Whether they walked into freedom, burned into spirit, or became something unbound, no one could ever say. What is certain is this: 3 sisters born in bondage resisted every attempt to be broken. No records hold their names. No stone marks their grave. Yet their presence lingers, unfinished and unforgettable. Even now, some who walk near Hollow Creek claim the ground itself vibrates softly, as though the sisters are still there, waiting, watching, humming. The story of the Hollow Creek triplets is more than a tale about 3 sisters. It is a reminder of how memory refuses to be erased, even when names are wiped from ledgers and voices are silenced on paper. Born into chains, they were taken from their mother's arms before they had a chance to breathe free air. Locked in a cellar, treated as experiments, punished in every way imaginable, they never gave the masters what they demanded. They never broke. Their answer was not with words or weapons, but with a sound that no whip could silence. That steady humming carried through walls, into fields, and across storms. It gave strength to the enslaved and spread fear among those who believed themselves in control. When the house burned, no bodies were found. When the records were rewritten, no truth was left behind. But the story endured. Passed in whispers, sung softly in lullabies, remembered in silence too heavy to explain. The triplets became more than children. They became a mystery that unsettled generations. Were they spirits who rose in fire? Were they girls who walked quietly into freedom? Or were they something else altogether, something the chains themselves could not contain? No answer was ever written, and perhaps no answer is possible. But what matters is not the ending. What matters is the refusal. The refusal to be broken. The refusal to vanish. Even now, when Hollow Creek lies in ruins, travelers say the earth still vibrates as if a low hum lingers beneath the soil. Some dismiss it. Others turn away quickly. But for those who pause and listen, the sound is there, soft, steady, unbroken. 3 sisters. No names in the records. No graves in the ground. Yet their presence remains. Unfinished. Unforgettable. Unyielding.